Hola chicos y chicas, ¿cómo estáis? Hoy, para variar, voy a hablar en inglés. So, let's start. If you want to learn Spanish from scratch, from zero, I recommend this book. Pasos 1 by Rosa Maria Martin and Martin Ellis. I like this book because it starts very simple. The first lesson is ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo. Then goes on to Hola, buenos días. The other thing I like is that the layout is quite good as well. So you have pictures and things like here is soy estudiante, soy arquitecto. Because sometimes you get books with too many things on one page, and that could be confusing. So this is a very good book to start. Something else I love about this book is authentic recordings. That is something I really like. By that, I mean these are people who are not reading from a script. They're just talking naturally, and that is really important, as we'll discuss later on. This book, as well, keeps coming back, is also a good book if you are preparing to sit the GCSE in England. Having said that, there are other books on the market that are specifically designed to pass the GCSE. Listos is a good option if that is the case. Now we need to then say, if we come pasos versus listos, which is better? It depends on your situation. If you are someone who wants to move to Spain, maybe to a remote area where people don't speak a lot of English, this is a better book because of the authentic recordings and the emphasis on communication. If your aim is to pass the GCSE, this is a better book because it's been written and designed specially to help you pass this particular test. Okay, let's move on. Say now you are above GCSE level and you want to move on. Interesting, because many people will stop just at that level because they can communicate. However, I will quote my teacher, Patricia McEldowney. She is a fantastic grammarian from New Zealand, and she used to talk about moving students from core to sophistication. And if you are at that stage, then you would need Pasos 2. And this book will do exactly that, move you from core to sophistication. For example, at a basic level, you will know, say, morir. Here will teach you fallecer. You will know trabajas, en qué trabajas. We're going to teach you a qué te dedicas. So your language will become more sophisticated. Now, another area that needs exploring and expanding is the past tenses, especially imperfecto versus indefinido. And I'm using the Spanish names on purpose. If you are at that level, you will know why. So, for this particular one, we need to go back and see how Spanish speakers learn this. And the answer will surprise you. The answer is in fairy tales, children's stories. These are wonderful. I'm using them in class now, and I can see the progress in the students when they see language in context. And because these are international stories, the context is clear. You know, if I talk about La Madrastra, they know what I'm talking about. So I always start the story with La Chica Buena, La Madrastra Mala. Again, emphasizing and reinforcing the idea that in Spanish, the adjective goes after the noun. I found this extremely useful and I will recommend them to you next time you go to Spain. They're cheap. Yes. This one, €1.50. And then, of course, once you've done them, something a bit more interesting, still talk about stories for children, but the language gets a bit more sophisticated here, more writing. Something that's also interesting is how the authors have chosen the correct language, because the emphasis here is not just to entertain the students, we're also expanding the vocabulary of our own native speakers. One example I would give is that instead of escapar, the author chose huir, because huir is of a higher register. Very interesting. Of course, these are the classics. I also found them so interesting. Fables. One fable that is very interesting is La Lechera, the milkmaid. And from this, La Lechera, we have expressions in English, something like don't cry over spilled milk, and don't count your chickens yet. I find that fascinating because we have in English the expressions, but we don't know the story. And they come from this story, La Lechera. How did that happen? I don't know. That will be the discussion for a different video. Now, another thing that I found extremely useful is a dictionary game. What I do, I divide the class into groups. And one group reads a definition and the other group has to guess. It can also be done individually. It works like this. Por ejemplo, se escribe con C. So this word is written with C. And then I read the definition. Es un animal salvaje que se parece a un caballo con rayas. Es un animal salvaje que se parece a un caballo con rayas. And I am not going to give you the answer. If you think you know the answer, write it in the comment section. Now, if you are looking for easy Spanish to communicate in a relaxed atmosphere, maybe in Benidorm, when there's no pressure, when there's a lot of English spoken, but you might want to say a few things. You might want to say a few things like, I don't know, hola, buenos días, gracias, adios. For more relaxed Spanish, not too complicated, you can get yourself a little magazine. €1. Showbiz magazines. You will find short articles, easy language. Of course, I'm not saying that this is for beginners, but it's a sort of relaxed language, not too serious. Okay? And sometimes it's good to know because it's simple, like, you know, la más guapa este verano. Things like that. Okay. If you say, no, I want a bit more serious Spanish. I want to understand news readers, for example. A bit of politics. El País is always a good newspaper. I like it. Okay. Finally, we cannot do something about Spanish books without mentioning Cervantes, Don Quixote de la Mancha. What I say to my students is, the English-speaking world has Shakespeare. We have Cervantes. Cervantes is the Spanish Shakespeare. I think that will would be a good comparison. And that's all for now. Un abrazo desde Blackpool. And if you don't know it, Blackpool is Las Vegas of England. Las Vegas de Inglaterra. Ahora ya lo sabéis. Nos vemos. Un abrazo. Adiós, adiós.